Why don't we move into our chat portion of the meeting? We've got another 50 minutes that we can hang out and chat on the channel if we'd like. Anybody else have some cool WebAssembly stuff to show off?
No, I'm still confused by WebAssembly.
I think that's JavaScript for me. Whenever JavaScript enters the picture in any form or fashion, things get confusing for me. So who's up for hanging out?
We're literally doing it right now.
Yeah.
I missed the hot chocolate machine. They had a Vivint, man. The only time I got hot chocolate was the monthly Rust meeting.
Well,
I didn't get it when I was last there. I didn't even know they had one.
yeah, they've got soda machines, hot chocolate machines, all kinds of stuff.
At Bricadia, we have one of those Mars drink machines with the little packets that you put in, and I hate it, so I don't use it.
I've never heard of a Mars drink machine.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. They're popular in larger offices for some reason.
So Keurig briefly made something called Keurig Cold, and it was really weird. It had these weird pods that you'd put in, and the pods had both carbonation and the syrup stuff in it, and so it was like Pop Rocks or something. It was like solidified carbonation. So you would, fill it with water, and you'd put your cup under it. You'd put you'd put your drink glass under it, and put the Keurig cold cup in it, and it would, do its thing. And the only problem was it took forever to do its thing. It was like, a minute or two just to have it make you a small cup of soda. And it did not taste all that great either. So
what happened over at Vivint? Did they lay off the entire Rust group there? I heard they had lots of layoffs last month.
I haven't heard anything about that. As far as I know, Eric's still working there.
Thinking a few months ago, they laid off 112 people or something.
Oh my!
I heard it was like a 10% reduction in force or something. It was around the same time they switched up some top leadership positions or something.
It also seemed to be heavily related to the Vivint wireless product that they had and weren't really doing much with. That's essentially secondhand information, but it seems to match what I've seen. So that's what I've gone with for until I hear otherwise, I guess. And I'm hoping the rest folks were not involved in the wireless side of things. That would be a weird place for them to be.
Well, yeah. Eric Gubler told me last week that he was looking for work because he got caught up in a layoff.
Yeah.
Oh man! So he did.
He said, "Hey, Darryl, just want to let you know if you're looking for Rust devs, I'm on the market again. Layoffs at Vivint got me a few weeks ago."
Shoot.
So,
yeah.
Anyone who's hiring a Rust developer, Eric's looking.
Wonder if that was related to our wonderful virus apocalypse thing.
I think it was right before that all happened.
So I looked up in the news, and apparently something happened March 3rd at Vivint.
One password advertised in the This Week in Rust newsletter today.
Okay, well, I will keep my eyes open. It's a hard time to lose a job right now with all the hiring freezes and whatnot, but there are still people hiring.
No kidding.
It'd be interesting to see what companies are doing Rust, because when you look on LinkedIn and see how many people in the area list Rust on their profiles, it's only, I think, about 50 people last time I checked. But with our guests tonight, I didn't know their company was using Rust.
Yeah, it seems to be in a lot of pockets in companies, and it seems to be growing, especially in there's a lot of people that use Rust for replacing their Go workloads. I think that's interesting. I don't know why.
Well,
It seems-
I think they're using it for more of the low-level plumbing stuff.
Yeah,
So
very much like back-end processing stuff, like data stuff.
So I think Go is better suited for, slightly, with stuff you normally do in Python or something.
Yeah.
Well,
They
it
call
reminds
it layer.
It wasn't about a year ago where AJ did I forget what the name of the library was, but you could bind Node.js to Rust.
Oh yeah.
Node.js to handle, a lot of your connection, but you're using Rust to do all the heavy crunching. So it sounds like you could do the same thing with Go, except you're using Go rather than Node.
Yeah, there's actually things like that to a lot of scripting languages because Rust can pretend to be like C as far as the plug-in mechanism of your dynamic language is aware.
So at my work in our scientific application, it's all C# code, but there was some performance critical stuff that I wrote in Rust. It's only about 3% of the code base. It took me more time to write that code than it would take me to do it in C#, but it runs faster, it takes less memory, and I haven't had a bug.
Haven't had a bug is the one that really surprised me when I started using Rust. Like, I've been using Rust for like almost 4 years now, and I've had like 2 seg faults, and they were compiler bugs. And like all the rest of my bugs were just like, oh, like I did the wrong operator. Like, I need to switch a less than to a greater than, or I did something off by 1, or like just like that sort of stuff where you run into it. Oh, well, that was stupid. I did something stupid, and I just need to fix it. Like, it's not any of those nasty, gotta track them down things.
Yeah, it's really like the level you can get down to the level that you are in C code if you want, but you don't have to deal with the fact that you have to understand how the compiler and the operating system work to debug anything.
Well, not even that, but like coming from Python to Rust, I was shocked that I was having a better time with Rust than I was in Python because Rust caught all my errors before it ever compiled. Or if I tried to do, especially refactoring, like if I tried to refactor something in Python, I'd search and search and replace and like find all the places that I could, but then I'd run it and it'd crash and I'd fix it and I'd crash and I'd fix it and I'd crash. Like every time it crashed, it had a nice trace back, but like tracking all the edge cases down was like this long process. Where in Rust it was like like these are all the places you need to fix. Fix them, 0 bugs.
So
what?
So in my career, I've worked on scientific or medical devices that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars for people to buy, and the number of buyers we have is measured in, dozens to hundreds or 1,000, not large volume. So we don't have 20 million users on our website. They're going to pound and find all the bugs for us. So I have to be pretty sure that when it goes out the door, it's going to work. And I find most people, they don't like pain, so they like to defer pain. So if I use something like Python, I can get something up and sort of going very, very quickly. But then I've really spread out how long it takes me to find all the issues. And if I were to ship it out the door, I know there's something going to hit runtime in the field I won't know about. So I'm attracted to strongly typed languages, and I got attracted to Rust, not because of the performance per se, but rather I like the guarantees that it had. Now, it still takes me longer to write Rust code than it does C# or something else, so I don't use it everywhere. But I do like the fact that once I get the thing to compile and not give me any errors, it is able to, it does what I told it to do. Now, I may have told it to do something stupid, but it did what I told it to do. And recently I went through an exercise with my algorithms. I was realizing I was repeating myself with different algorithms with lost lines of code. So I said, let me go back and refactor this. So I learned more about interfaces and more about templates and so forth. And I refactored about 3,000 lines of Rust code. And after I got done finding the compiler of all the changes, I ran and everything just worked. So the joke, if it compiles, it works, is been pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you're dealing with a lot of fast moving libraries or something, it's another situation where it pays off really well. Because if you're doing that in Python or JavaScript or something, unless you've got some really well disciplined developers of things, you're just going to get errors like crazy when you go too long without updating your dependencies. And then you've got to run it, do some test suite to find all the cases where things changed, and you tickle all the APIs just right to find all the things that changed. So when I was doing JavaScript stuff, especially, I ran into a lot of, sometimes I just threw something away that was sort of a hobby project that I hadn't updated my NPM dependencies in a long time. And then I do an update and then everything's broken. I'm like, okay, never mind. This is garbage now. But in my hobby projects that I let sit for a long time, I can come back to them. I can update the dependencies, fix all the bugs that the compiler tells me about, and then it just works again.
I think part of this is a little bit of a misnomer in that we're early on in Rust's life of, I guess, utility in the market, and pretty much everyone involved in Rust that's writing Rust right now is fairly self-disciplined and fairly on in their engineering world. And I think that the more people you get from, like, say, Python, you're going to find a lot of people do dumb things in Rust too, and it will also bear its weight. Like, oh, it wasn't like a catch-all of all the things that we would expect it to, but it will probably be an improvement, a grand improvement.
Yeah. Well, when I first started in Rust, it was really young and a lot of people were just playing with it, and Rust itself was changing rapidly. And this was like pre 1.0, and so the stability guarantees of the language itself were not all that high, and people had written stuff, months ago, and the language had changed. And I didn't know Rust very well, and I was able to, I wanted to try something out, so I downloaded somebody's repo. I tried to build it, and it didn't build. There were some Rust syntax things that had changed since they wrote it. But I was able to just sort of follow the compile errors and fix it up so that it was correct again, and then it worked. And, you can do that in pretty much any language if you are willing to, exercise all the paths to find the things that changed at runtime. But
yeah, take your average data engineer and have them go through that in Rust and see if you can get very far.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of experience
everyone, right?
in general with fixing programs, but
exactly.
So
exactly.
I'm looking forward when we can get together to do our embedded project. I hired 2 developers in the first quarter of this year who came from a background where they worked on either military defense or biotech hardware. So they've done C# or C and previously, and I showed them my Rust code and talked about Rust, and they both signed up to come. So I'm trying to evangelize a bit in my own group. So I'm looking forward to us to get a little hands-on Rust experience for embedded purposes. I did my stuff for server computing, but I think that I'm anxious to see what we can do with Rust in an embedded sense compared to what we're doing currently with C. Levi, I'm sure you know much more about that than I do, but how's your experience been in using Rust in an embedded context?
There's so the whole ecosystem there is still younger than in the server space, and people are still working out the best kind of trade-offs between trying to build guardrails in with the type system versus leaving things fairly flexible and agile. And I don't know. I think that that things kind of swung a little bit in the complex direction, and there's some work to simplify it again. But overall, you have much more power to build safe abstractions that compile down to very small, efficient code in Rust than you do in C. And depending on what kind of embedded things that you're used to, because there's sort of a wide variety. You've got your tiny couple dollar microcontrollers that, I mean, you still use 8051s in some places where you have to use sort of a gimped version of C from a couple of embedded systems developers. There are embedded systems companies have custom compilers just for this, that it's not a, it's sort of a dialect of C that lets you say, you know, this function is not reentrant, so don't use stack space, because it's a weird, very limited kind of chip. And then you have like the Raspberry Pi or whatever. There's a bunch of chips that are basically like what's in your phone or Raspberry Pi, where you have like a full operating system. Some of them are Windows, some of them are Linux, and you just write normal code. And there's a big spectrum between those two. Sometimes you use like an RTOS, so you've got a full-fledged set of utility functions and libraries, and it's mostly like C or C++ on a normal platform. You may just have a little bit of different versions of functions for threading and tasks and queues and stuff.
I don't think there's compiler support for PIC32s yet with Rust. Is that correct?
PIC32 is a MIPS processor, isn't it?
Yes.
So there is MIPS support, but I don't know that anybody's done a lot of MIPS stuff with it. So I'm not sure about the particulars of the chips, but if there's like, if the LLVM MIPS backend works for the PIC32 chip, then you should be able to create a target triple for PIC32 things. There's a number of things you have to put together to get support for a particular kind of chip. And that includes like a target triple, which basically tells the ABI, it tells Rust the ABI it needs to use in its compiling. And then, so for the common embedded things that people are targeting now, like ARM cores, those are already there. You don't have to create your own. But you do typically, per microcontroller, have to create a linker script which tells it what memory regions within the chip belong to peripherals and where it can put, where the flash is. So where it has to be linked so it gets put into flash when, and the addresses in your program point to the right places for reading code out of flash and that sort of stuff. So for community supported chips, a lot of this stuff is already done, and you can just clone a repo and build off of that. And it's got all of the stuff that's not, that's more about the chip than about the language. All that's sort of done for you already.
Well, I'd be willing to recommend we upgrade our chipset because people are using chips they've worked with for such a long time because they're used to doing it. But the volumes we're talking about, a few dollars for a chip really isn't that much compared to the labor you spend on it. And if you have a bug in the field, it's very expensive to go and roll out a fix.
Yeah. Plus, a lot of the volumes of these ARM-based chips are so much higher in some cases that it's cheaper to use a 32-bit ARM processor than, you know, some of the things that you're used to from before, like MSP 430s or PIC 32s or whatever. There's just not as many of them out there, so they're more expensive to make. But like the ones that we're getting for this workshop are STM32. So they're made by ST Microsystems. It's one of their sort of middle ground microcontrollers. It's not the tiniest one, but it's also pretty small. I think it's got like either 32 or 64K of RAM. So it's really not big computer wise, but it runs at like 72 megahertz. So you can churn through a lot of, reading inputs and writing outputs and controlling things. It's
Could probably blink a light or two on that.
yeah, it's fast enough to do some pretty impressive things, and it's got built-in USB, so you can turn it into a USB peripheral.
I'm expecting that we won't be able to get together for the workshop until June. That's my bet.
Yeah.
Hey, Darryl, what kind of medical devices do you make?
So my current company, we make a machine that we sell for about $500,000 that's used for people work doing antibody research. So we actually have some customers now working on COVID-19. Basically, we use a technology which allows us to measure when proteins are binding to each other, and we can do high throughput analysis of hundreds of samples at a time. That's our advantage with the competition. But over the years, I've worked with other scientific devices like mass spectrometers. I did dental x-ray equipment for a while. So I'm used to working in an environment where people pay a lot of money for something and they expect it to work. And so I like things that I'm fairly sure that when I ship it out the door, I'm not going to have a problem in the field.
Yeah, there's a certain class of things that you do in a microcontroller that, they're really hard to debug because they're based on, real-time data sampling or something. And you can't just stop it with the debugger, and because, interrupts are firing in the background and things are happening, and it just doesn't work if you stop it. You can't single step through it meaningfully because it relies on things happening in real time. So anything you can do to, get some more guarantees that you're not gonna, go off in the weeds is very helpful. My experience so far is that Rust is pretty good at keeping your system from going off into the weeds.
So I don't know Tod and Brent as well. Where are you using Rust?
I bought a laptop so I could write Rust on it. Does that count?
Wow, a dedicated Rust laptop.
That's quite the sacrifice.
Wow.
It's an old ThinkPad T series. I figured I would get something set up specifically to force myself to use something portable and do something performant because I don't have a whole lot of memory and processor to throw at a process, and it'll be great. It'll be great.
that'd be great to run Rust. I'm not sure that's gonna be so great to build Rust on.
Yeah, not with that attitude.
I did a workshop, and I had someone with a MacBook Air, and he couldn't compile the project with his 2 gigs of RAM.
Wait,
Ouch.
because it ran out of RAM? What?
Yeah, it ran out of RAM.
The Rust compiler uses a lot of memory.
Okay. Duly noted. Duly noted.
See,
That's a little terrifying.
So we're still recording this, apparently. This is going up somewhere?
Yeah, that's AJ's request, is that we split it into halves, the presentation half and the discussion half, and then we post the 2 halves.
I think last time I went and looked at YouTube for the discussion half, and it had like 6 views or something.
Yeah, not high traffic.
All right. Well, I would still need to be careful what I say. I don't know what I'm allowed to disclose or not for my use of Rust.
Yes, you do want to realize this is recorded, so yes, be careful.
So I was interested in Rust at my last company. Some of us there were just trying to, in our effort to learn new things all the time, it's like, hey, let's have a little discussion thing on Rust and, start to pick that up. I'm C++ background, not web development. And he sent me an invite to the microcontroller one you were going to do. And I think that's just a tease that's out in front of me to keep us coming in the meantime. We'll see if someday we get to that.
Next month, we promise, right?
So, is it really? Yeah. So, but no, currently I work for Disney Streaming on the various things. And I can say that Rust is used and WASM in a non-browser type environment. But that's just one small thing of the many different languages and parts of the project that get used. And I've only been there a few months now. I get to work from home, which I thought was going to be really cool. And now everyone's working from home. So, nothing special there at all. So I'm mostly just enjoying kind of hearing what other people are doing with it. It seems like a lot of people are coming from the web development side of things that are doing Rust as far as this particular group. But the resources online for Rust have been great, and it's been really neat kind of just having this group. I know I've been in the background, but I really enjoyed it so far. So
cool.
I missed everyone else's introductions because I was pulled away, and I didn't realize this thing was still connected until I switched back over. So,
well, I haven't done mine, so I can do mine. So I work at GitHub, and we don't use Rust at GitHub currently, but I am working on introducing it to the organization through the official paved paths sort of prescribed way. So I'm doing the bureaucracy thing and seeing how that goes. But we've already got a channel with over 50 people in it on our Slack called Rustations. So there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of people who are like, wow, this is really cool. Like my team uses Ruby, Go, C, and C++. And so when we've got to bind to a C library, I got people in my team saying, well, should we do it in Rust now then? Because like we hate C. Like we don't like writing new things in C. Like that's not the emphasis on our team. Our team mostly writes Go. And so, and then of course they would do it. They would just bind to it and Go. But when you're doing lots of round trips across FFI, or is it FFI with Go? Whatever the Go means for getting to, it's super high friction and super low performance. So
I thought I saw a technical article that allowed people to compile and link between Go and Rust without going through the overhead that Go has with talking to C. Do you know what I'm talking about, or did I misread something?
Between Go and Rust?
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that. That's interesting. But we're dealing with C libraries we need to integrate and a Go service. And it's just like, okay.
We'll see if I can go Google that quickly.
I saw a tweet or a Reddit thing. I don't remember what it was exactly that showed a Go and Rust thing communicating, but I don't know what the details were.
I do
So I should
know.
say. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say I forgot to mention like what I actually do with Rust other than advocacy at my day job is I teach Rust crash courses. Words, stop failing me. It's late. Anyway, so
I'll
I've got
fix
like
that
a
in the
crash
post
course
edit.
up on Udemy and stuff. I was on the roster for OSCON for a full day training in July. Never done a full day in-person training before. I was so excited. And then COVID-19 happened and O'Reilly shut down their in-person conference business division permanently.
Yeah.
It's just like, what? So they might do a virtual conference, and maybe if they do a virtual conference, they'll have me on the roster, and who knows what time slot they'll have me for. So it's all up in the air.
So since I'm newer to the group and don't know all the people, how much of the group would you say use Rust in their work right now versus they're approaching this more as like a hobby, learning it is just kind of an interest thing?
I use it part-time at work.
It's my full-time, well, almost full-time language at work.
What's
Cool.
your other language?
I occasionally work on some of the Ruby stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
And
What about the
even-
mix from the group at large? Is it mostly people working in Rust or people just hobby doing it?
I'd say more than half are just hobby or interested.
Okay.
Less than half actually get to work on it. That would be my anecdotal guess. I don't know how accurate that is. Levi, maybe you have a better read.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, people come and go to meetings, so
That's true too.
But Rust has a chance,
Of the
right? I
regulars,
mean,
I'd say
I saw some chat going on in the Slack today of someone, they were hiring for Rust, and so it's going to take over the world, right?
There's
It
a
is.
much higher percentage of people who work in Rust at the Rust meetup than Haskell for the Haskell meetup when it was a thing.
Hey, that's a good sign.
Oh,
So it was non-zero for Haskell, which kind of surprising, but not a lot.
I'm an SRE, and in the software side of SRE, the languages are typically much more. I mean, JavaScript is inescapable, but Python and Go are the big ones, and Java, which I won't touch. And I believe that we're going to probably migrate to more of a Rust presence in the SRE tooling ecosystem. So I think that a lot of the things we want from like a Go experience, we're going to get more from a Rust experience, and the reliability side of it is just going to be more there and in better ways for other people to consume. So
Do you see that trend as local to your company or more like a global trend?
I definitely don't see it in my company because my company, I'm the only SRE, and I'm trying to establish that culture. But I think it's an industry trend.
Yeah, I think there's going to end up being sort of a healthy split between things in Rust and things in Go for SRE ops sort of stuff.
Yeah.
There's definitely things where Rust is a great fit and things where Go is a great fit. And
so Nathan, I just posted into the Zoom chat a link to a blog article about how to call Rust from Go without the overhead of CGO. It
Oh,
uses
cool.
the ability to go directly, since Go can talk to assembly language, it uses that to link to it, so it's a higher performance link. So I thought it was very interesting to read.
Thank you for that.
blog.io/RustGo.
Yep.
I see a link.
And welcome,
in the chat
Isaac.
For Discord, is that a Discord for this group, or is that a different, somewhat
Yeah.
related thing?
Yeah,
Utah
that's
Rust Group.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just also saying, welcome, Isaac. I see you hopped back on, or on for the first time. I don't know if you were here before.
gonna ask if you guys had like a Slack, but
We do as well.
I did find the Slack.
why?
So wait, why do we hold on? Wait, so we have a Slack and a Discord.
We've had a Slack for I don't know how long, since before I started coming to the group over a year or two ago. And the Discord channel was just created by Mike Harding, I believe, just a couple months ago.
Man,
And I think he just wanted to create it, and a lot of people liked it better than Slack. So I'm on both.
At my work, my team uses Slack, but half my team when they're home uses Discord because they do lots of gaming.
Nothing I like more than multiple ways to talk to the same people.
Yeah. There's some fairly active Discords for the Rust language community at large as well. There is one for, I mean, it's the same Slack. We just have a channel on it for Slack. But the Rust community segment is much smaller on Slack than it is in Discord.
Yeah, I think that's what the argument was that so many more Rust community people at large were on Discord that it made more sense to be over there.
Probably. The I have too many Discords and Slacks. I don't. But I will say that I may have piqued Utah Forge's interest in adopting us. So we may get an invite for host, especially if we can't go to Vivint anymore.
Yeah, Eric was our in there. I don't know if he'll be able to get us there as a
So-
venue anymore.
I think the rest of the team there that he was on is still there.
Oh, really?
And so I think they would still be willing to host it. But we'd have to ask.
So I have several friends that work there. So if it's worth me asking and finding out.
Yeah, I think it
Is
is.
there something special about their building?
It just seemed to be a good location for most folks. And I like the hot chocolate.
That's the real sell.
That's right. If we could get hot chocolate and closer to my house, then we can switch.
Right.
No, it's
Are
it's
you
whatever.
north?
We just need some place. I really like I don't want to stay virtual forever once things, loosen up. I like actually meeting people, talking face to face.
Yeah, it's one of my few ways to actually talk to people in person.
Exactly.
The question
Me
is,
too.
do other people enjoy talking to you as much as you enjoy talking to them?
Probably not, but
I'm all right with Levi.
Yeah, I am too. So for the record.
Weave is 2 buildings south or 2 blocks south of Vivint Smart Home. I guess
Do you
it's-
work at Weave?
No, that's the Utah Forge is heavily sponsored by Weave. So there is heavy overlap between their employees and the administrators of Utah Forge.
What's Utah
Yeah,
Forge? I'm not familiar with that.
They're like a collection of several, like the Go meetup, the Women Who Go meetup, the Cloud Native meetup, now Utah Kubernetes. What else do they have?
So a whole bunch of meetups.
Yeah, like meetup groups. They were going to put on the Go West conference, now possibly canceled. It was going to be its first one, so that's kind of sad. But yeah, so that they're just trying to be very big in the open source and the microservice-y, cloud native-y ecosystem. And Clint, their CTO, has been a guy I know for like 10 years now, and he is collecting a lot of these meetups that he thinks are very valuable for things he's interested in, including Rust is a thing he's interested in. And he was like, AJ runs this meetup. I need to talk to him about coming to Utah Forge. And
Oh, great. He should.
yeah, so that may be a thing, but if we can't get Vivint back, then we can find a home. So it'll be
That's
good.
cool.
And it's not too far from where you were before. You don't have to worry about it. Unless you're north. It is technically further.
It's
So
wrong
Forge
side of the
Utah-
freeway for me.
Yeah. Forge Utah has a Rust channel on its Slack with 20 members.
Yes, I started that channel.
Ah, thank you.
You see, I've been in that channel, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought that was the group thing for the meetup.
For this meetup?
Yeah, and I blame you for it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hmm.
I linked things in there saying, hey, this meetup's happening, but yeah, okay. I've led people astray.
Yeah, there's enough different ways to contact various people that as long as they get contacted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our official channels are not very high volume, so
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
really low volume, like a comment a week.
Well, I will probably starting to be writing more Rust in my side gig stuff, and so maybe I'll comment more. But I'm not joining another Slack.
Oh, wait, did you tell us about your side gig?
I have not told you about my side gig.
So tell us about your side gig.
Levi knows about my side gig. I don't know if it's ready to share with a wider audience.
Oh, are you like stealth moding something?
I mean, it's not like a hidden gem or anything. It's just, very high level and kind of pompous at this point. So I don't know. We're trying to do eventing and analytics as a service. So like automatically ETL stuff from multiple data sources that you might have, like ancient database DB2 thing over here and Oracle and whatever, and you want to do like analytics and stuff and eventing off of that, and we're like, well, okay, so why don't you just CDC pipe that into our stuff, and then we'll shove it into Mongo and Elasticsearch, and then our query API will just choose the data source that's best for whatever you want to do. And then, so we're like using NATS for like all of our message bus stuff. And we're trying to do some schema abstractions around all the data so that you can event on it, you can version it, you can do analytics on it live. So you don't have to do like batch mode, like, oh, this will take like 3 hours. Heaven forbid you use Spark or something, where you have to do that essentially. And then you can just do it like live up to the minute aggregated functional analytics. And so we started December, and now we're kind of like, well, guess we have more time to build stuff before we try to start finding customers. Because COVID-19 has kind of ruined that whole market.
Mm.
No sales will happen for a while. So, yeah, Rust seems like a good target for getting some good performance out of data processing engines.
Cool.
yeah, it really is great at being kind of reasonably fast by default. You don't have to worry about performance very much because the patterns and such built into the standard libraries are such that things happen relatively efficiently.
Yeah.
So it feels like you're writing a modern high-level language, but it compiles down to simple loops and direct pointers to things, and
Yep.
most of your bound checks go away.
I'm actually more excited about the WASI and WASM world that Rust kind of makes easy. So Fastly uses WASM modules for all of their function farming execution stuff. So all of their edge computing layer is just 100% WebAssembly modules, and it's extremely scalable, and I love it. So I'm kind of excited about it. I think it's going to be very much the future, and I mean, I'm all excited about Kubernetes, but I think that it will be kind of this parallel side thing to, well, Kubernetes for Docker stuff, but if you really, really want the performance, you can scale this other thing over here, and it'll be totally different. So, yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Yeah, so you add a whole lot or fit a whole lot more into your server that way, I guess. So I've got my little microcontroller thing running a little graphical demo.
Is that the same kit we'll be using or something else?
That's pretty close. Is that in focus? I guess it's probably reversed.
Hello,
Rust.
110.
Yeah.
What's it counting?
It's got a rotary encoder knob here. So it's the ball, it's sort of following and looping back around, and then as you turn the knob, it shifts right and left.
It's
Just
your game controller. We're creating an Atari.
Yeah, it's a pretty full-featured graphics library for drawing simple shapes, like old school quick draw or something. So you can have a nice little display for, you can have a temperature readout for the onboard temperature sensor.
So is that a teaser plug for next month, or whenever we do the microcontrollers?
Yeah. If anybody has ideas for cool things they'd like to know or like to learn how to do, any hints on what to focus on to keep people interested would be good, because the whole landscape of embedded Rust is massive, and we could spend weeks just going over all the different libraries and building different kinds of systems and that sort of thing.
So I apologize if this was covered. It probably was. So if the hardware came in and we're still not able to meet together, are we able to come pick this up or something? Or are we going to put this off until we are able to meet together?
You
have
can
to stay
contact
home.
AJ.
Yeah, we'll have to chat with AJ and figure out what the best approach there is. I'm sure we could drop them off or have a place for people to come pick them up, something like that, if we do an online version of it.
Is that the plan right now, though, to do it online? It's going to be okay, or do we want to wait until we do this in person? Because things don't always go smoothly.
Yeah, it'd be a lot easier to help get all the tools installed and little, because it can be little kind of finicky, plugging all the wires in the right spot and figuring out what's going on when it's not working.
Well, maybe this could end up being a good thing, go pick it up or get it in some way, and we put off actually doing it as a group until later. And anyone in the meantime that wants to play with it and figure out some stuff, maybe it'll make for a more productive session when we do it. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay, we are at time. I'm going to stop the recording and close my thing out. I'll try to leave the channel open in case you guys want to keep hanging out. I don't know if it'll let me.
I don't think it will.
I got to run. Thank you all for a great evening.
Thank you, everybody.